The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I realize I've been swallowing the D and saying something like commie news. Anyway, hi. Nath Valvo is my guest today. He'll be the final portion of today's podcast. I didn't know much about Nath, Australian comedian. Fantastic. You're going to love him, so stick around for that. A couple of recommendations for you. Jim Jefferies was on the Two Bears, One Cave podcast. Maybe about a month ago, I caught up on that. Really great listen. Also from about a month ago, the episode of Kill Tony, where they list Theo Von as the guest. Really, really funny episode. The civilians who went up and did Kill Tony were hilarious. Plus, Ron White gets up and does a pretty strong minute. So Ron White, maybe not as retired as we were led to believe. I have not yet, as of this recording, seen either Jim Gaffigan or Mark Norman's new specials, but the New York Times has seen Gaffigan. Some spoilers coming up here for their review. The headline pretty strong. Jim Gaffigan's quintessentially American comedy gets darker and better. He'll still joke about fast food, but on Dark Pale, his 10 stand-up special, his evolution as a comedian is apparent. The Times asks, have we gotten Jim wrong all along? The pandemic, he tells us, has made him question mortality. Gaffigan, dressed in a black suit and shirt, imagines his own funeral. He wants an open casket with him sitting up, crumbs on his shirt, arms occasionally raising like a marionette, while the recording of him says, "Don't worry, I'm in a better place," before adding, "Just kidding, I'm here." It's an unexpectedly creepy visual. And after telling you about cremation, Gaffigan adopts his signature second voice, asking, when is he going to do the food jokes? The Times says Jim has been prolific. He's put out 5 specials in 6 years, with this one on Amazon Prime being the best of the bunch. Wow, and his last one was really good. Jason Zinnemann in the Times, who is just a fantastic comedy writer, says, Gaffigan's patient delivery was there from the start, but his early albums might surprise those who only know his famous persona. He cursed and talked about sex and came off more as an annoyed son than a grumpy family man. In 2015, he told Mark Maron his earliest acting experience was pretending to be happy when his dad came home. His tone had shifted by 2006 when he had his first special Beyond the Pale, which included the signature bit about Hot Pockets. Gaffigan, now 57, can seem like Jerry Seinfeld in his sticky phrase-making, an elevator is a casket on a string, and the ordinariness of his subject matter. His focus on single subjects can be knowingly, preposterously long. Who else does 10 minutes on horses? There's an element of showing off, look at how I can make foliage funny, but also the excessiveness, the stubborn commitment of it, that gets its own laughs. He constantly interrupts his jokes to comment on them and plays with expectations through formal trickery. His new work reveals his move into more storytelling, elaborate act-outs, and jokes built on deceptions. An example, my parents aren't vaccinated. They've been dead for decades, but enough with the excuses. He has also become slightly more political in the Trump era, even letting loose in an uncharacteristic rant on social media. Gaffigan now performs the kind of interweaving jokes that only a seasoned comic could pull off. These are less the standard comic callbacks than variations on a theme. It's the work of a pro. The only time you see Gaffigan strain is in his personal material. When he moves into stories about his childhood in the second half of the special, you wish he had a director to draw him out. Then again, his buried anger is such a source of his comedy that you wouldn't want to see him go too deep. Strong review from the Times. Looking forward to that. At the time of this recording, the only review I've seen of Mark Norman's special comes from Leisure Bites. I'm unfamiliar with Leisure Bite, but they say, and again, spoilers here, the episode starts off with Mark sharing a joke about the controversial Epstein Island. He even threw in some famous celebrity names regarding the island. Leisure Bite says, that's some brave move. They write, comedians usually are ready to face critics, and with that in mind, Mark didn't compromise on spilling offensive jokes. When a viewer asked him for info about his private parts, Mark straight up gave an offensive comeback, which made the crowd gag. From the beginning to the end, Mark Norman had jokes that covered LGBTQIA+, his personal life, including his wife, societal norms, drugs, the dark side of rich people, and whatnot. People who aren't into dark humor and get ticked off quickly at such offensive jokes will surely dislike Norman, but truth be told, comedy is called comedy for a reason. I'll see if some more reviews come up, and I'll watch it myself. Again, just a really busy week in my personal life. The Montreal Times has done a great job covering Just for Laughs Montreal. They had several reviews and several previews. They spoke with Alan Davies, who hosted British. Davies first performed at Just for Laughs back in 1995 and said, I loved it because Just for Laughs is such a well-organized and well-supported festival. Amen on that. I must have made quite an impression because they asked me back 28 years later. Davies will also be part of the lineup at the gala hosted by Eddie Izzard tonight. He said, I better make the most of it this year. I have a feeling the next time I get invited back will be 2051 when I'm 85 years old. Steph Tolev has been on The Nasty Show. She told the Montreal Times, "I love doing crowd work, but not in a hateful way. I mostly poke fun at the men in the audience of my shows, but more of the silly stuff I bring back to myself. Actually, I'm more of an aggressive comic on stage, but in a fun way. Everyone is secretly dirty and perverted. It's something that's relatable to all of us." They also reviewed The Nasty Show and Just for the Culture. At Just for the Culture, festival favorite Alonzo Bowden excelled as the show's host. He definitely set the tone and warmed up the audience for a night of culturally diverse comedy. It was a strong, solid lineup. Two comics really stood out. Zorna Garg left the sold-out show at Club Soda convulsing with laughter at her observations of family life within East Indian culture. One of her jokes, "Indians have only one pronoun, doctor." The other one who crushed, and I've been telling you about this guy, you paid attention, Gianmarco Cerezi. See? Yes, his closing set dealt with such issues as anti-Semitism, stereotypes, and visiting a gun show in Florida. It was filled with so much hilarious angst, it was reminiscent of Woody Allen's stand-up circa 1964. The Nasty Show, meanwhile, was nasty with a capital N. Host Mike Ward proved with his monologues why he's the bad boy of Quebec comedy. Toronto comic Steph Tolev hit the nasty ground running with her buzzsaw voice, frenetic delivery, and raunchy audience interactions. Minnesota native Jeffrey Asmus was another audience favorite with his acerbic takes on book banning in Florida, why there are French street names in Montreal, and 9/11. Listen to this joke. When Jeffrey had a conversation with a New Yorker about 9/11 and said to him that he couldn't find Minnesota on a map, Jeffrey replied, "Neither could Al-Qaeda." Montreal Times continuing to crush it. They went and saw the Lucas brothers and said with impeccable timing and rhythm, whether they were completing each other's sentences or echoing them, the brothers provided a nonstop entertaining show, and the spectrum of topics were almost like no other comic or comedy team could tackle them. Whether it was life in Newark, twin discrimination by singletons, trying to get the black vote for Bernie Sanders in Iowa, having a movie night with members of the Black Panthers, or pitching jokes to Martin Lawrence. And one more. The Montreal Times caught one of the midnight surprises. The one they caught, host Joelle Nicole Johnson got the crowd pumped up by talking about her trip to Taiwan to meet her boyfriend's family and her time as a substitute teacher at a middle school in South Central LA. Alonzo Bowden worked out some material for The Nasty Show. He dealt with turning 61 and the difference between having sex with young and middle-aged women. Gianmarco Cerezi killed it with new material. See, you paying attention? I've been telling you about this guy for a year now. Gianmarco Cerezi. Gianmarco's jokes included trying to buy condoms at a 7-Eleven in the middle of the night. New Zealand comic Ursula Carlson related what irritates her at supermarkets, especially customers who get too touchy-feely with the produce. Arthur Simeon shared the joys of having a seat in an airplane's emergency exit row. And Britannic, the pair of SNL writers, brought sketch comedy to a whole new level, especially when their wireless microphones died right in the middle of a sketch. Montreal Times, awesome job. Thank you.
I'm Erica, 1/3 of the podcast Books and Betches, a comedy book podcast where we swear, spoil, and we talk about...
Whoa, you cannot say that in this.
What do you mean? That's our slogan. It's our gimmick.
How about we just give some examples of things we talk about?
Well, there's a lot of chaos.
I'm Kristen, and with me I have...
Whopper!
No.
A lot of sidebar conversations.
Are you denying the existence of chupacabras?
You know what, Erica? Yes, I am.
You can listen to new episodes of the Books and Betches podcast every Tuesday morning, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Out today on Apple is The Beanie Bubble. The film features Zach Galifianakis as Ty Warner, the eccentric businessman and founder of Ty Inc., described in the movie as a stuffed Himalayan cat business, which went on to manufacture Beanie Babies. Rated R, 1 hour, 50 minutes. Weirdness on the set of Beetlejuice 2, says Vulture. Vermont State Police reported the two props, a 150-pound statue and a pumpkin lamppost, have been stolen from the set of Beetlejuice 2. Should I say that word a third time? No, I'm not going to. You're not tricking me. I would like to thank the supporters of the show, so you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. You can buy me a one-off coffee, or there are a few members out there, and I want to thank them at least once a month. So Tommy, thank you. Andrea, thank you. Gary, thank you. Shannon, thank you. Mike, thank you. Kenny, thank you. The show also got a new 5-star review from WFHVJHDBKUF on Apple Podcasts, who gave the show 5 stars, wrote, great show, nice content. Thank you. I don't know how to pronounce your name, I'm sorry. The New Faces of Comedy Canada showcases happened today at 9:30. Spencer Adamus is a stand-up comedian and actor from Winnipeg. He won Winnipeg's Funniest Person with a Day Job back in 2017. Love it. He's one of the founding members of the sketch comedy group Family Dinner. Brendan D'Souza, I feel like I've heard of you, Brendan. They have performed across the country at festivals like Just for Laughs Vancouver, Toronto, In 2023, they released their debut comedy album, Brendan D'Souza, Clever, Hip, and Scary. Michelle Forrester co-created the Writers' Room Sketch Show, which was selected as a finalist for JFL's stand-up and pitch competition. In 2022, she recorded with JFL on the Montreal Originals album, Heavy Petting Zoo. That is a great title for an album. Dakota Ray Hebert, I've heard of her for sure. I've talked about her on this podcast. Dakota co-stars in the CTV comedy Shelved. Faris Haitia was born in Toronto to Sudanese parents and then raised in Alberta. He brings a unique mix of storytelling and observational humor to the stage. Known for his relaxed delivery and quick wit, his unpredictable style makes for big laughs and unforgettable crowd work moments. Mo Ismail is an Egyptian-Canadian stand-up comedian bringing new levels of energy, diversity, and most importantly, authenticity to the entertainment space. He's open for Colin Mockery, Todd Barry, and Mark Maron. Not bad. Maddie Kelly, known across Canada for her unique comedic voice. Some of her podcasts include Popcorn for Dinner, Let's Make a Sci-Fi, and Let's Make a Rom-Com. Natasha Lynn Miles is an Edmonton-based stand-up comedian originally from the Maritimes. That's pretty far from each other if I know my geography. She's performed throughout Canada and featured at Just for Laughs Northwest and the Grindstone Comedy Festival in Edmonton. Henry Sir is an all-Canadian basketball player. Yeah, comedian and writer. Wow. Henry recently took part in Season 13 of Comedy Central Stand-Up Featuring and his debut album, Chalant. Henry, I just want to add you on comedy stations on Live One. Your album is not available for digital distribution. I would love to play you. Ryan Williams is one of Canada's most exciting comics. His debut album, Manual Labor of Love, was released by Comedy Central Records and went to #1 on the iTunes Canada comedy charts. Ryan, your album's not available either. I would play you, dude. Tonight at 7 o'clock, it's New Faces International. Sayla A.B., originally from Paris. Her Best Newcomer Award win at the Chortle Awards last year cemented her growing reputation as one of comedy's most exciting new voices. She just did a sold-out run at the Edinburgh Fringe, I guess last year, since this year's is in the future, and the Soho Theatre. She's a regular stand-up on the Guilty Feminist Podcast Live UK Tour. Next up is Brennan Rees, one of the UK's most hotly tipped talents, nominated for Best Newcomer at Fringe. Using his cheeky charm and baby-faced brutality, he's racked up over 20 million views online. Katie Boyle is a comedian from Ireland living in New York City. Her debut album, I'll Do It Myself, also not available. Katie, come on, comedians, get that stuff out there. Collect those royalties. What are you doing? Boyle is the host of the Shift podcast, where she and guests talk about dating, relationships, and mental health from an Irish perspective. Abhay Ned Carney was born in Delhi, raised in Doha and Bangalore, as an English-speaking comedian of Konkani descent with an international flair. His unique third culture experiences infuse his comedic style with a refreshing perspective. His journey into stand-up comedy began as an escape from the mundane, utilizing voices, impressions, and characters to captivate audiences. Sarah Keyworth wrote and performed 2 series of their own for Radio 4 entitled Are You a Boy or a Girl? A timely, hilarious, and insightful exploration of gender. Their debut hour, Dark Horse, received a Herald Angel Award, a Pleasant Theatre Award, and a nomination for Best Newcomer in the prestigious Edinburgh Comedy Awards. Glenn Moore is one of the best and most prolific joke writers in the UK and a frequent guest on The Great American Joke Off. James Roque is the Filipino stepson of New Zealand comedy. In 2019, his show Boy Mestizo garnered him for a nomination for the Fred Award for Best Show at the New Zealand International Comedy Festival. Amy Gledhill brims with natural warmth and charm. One half of the double Edinburgh-nominated duo, The Delightful Sausage. In 2023, her debut show, The Girl Before the Girl You Marry, love that title, was nominated for Best Live Show at the National Comedy Awards. Emmanuel Sonobi has been on the comedy circuit for what feels like 5 minutes. That's what the paragraph they sent me says. Having gone from open spot to closing BBC's Live at the Apollo in an incredibly short space of time, you'll be seeing big things from this big man in the coming years. And last alphabetically, but not least, Tom Walker. In 2016, he took the Melbourne International Comedy Festival's Best Newcomer Award with his show Beep Boop. Tom's 2019 show, Very Very, was filmed as a comedy special for global streaming on Amazon. His latest comedy show, Tom Walker is Tim Walter, played Adelaide Fringe. Long one today, and I'm really cutting stuff back. It's just been an incredible week with all the stuff coming out of Montreal. Let's see who's playing Montreal tonight on a Friday. At 11:30 in the morning, Rainn Wilson's keynote address. 12:30, Variety's 10 Comics to Watch. 2 o'clock, Come to Daddy. Ruben K. is hosting his inaugural live podcast. 3 o'clock, the Just for Laughs award show. This year's recipients, Quinta Brunson is the Comedy Person of the Year, Bert Kreischer, Stand-Up Comedian of the Year, Ronnie Chang, Breakout Comedy Star of the Year, Mae Martin is the Rising Comedy Star of the Year, Rainn Wilson gets the Comedy Impact Award. James Davis is your host. 4:30, Felipe Esparza records his podcast. 4:45, the State of the Industry address with Jessica Curson. Wonder why Andy Kindler is not doing that this year. I got to dig in on that. I'm sure that will come out. Maybe because Kindler has been throwing a lot of heat on Twitter. I'm speculating here and not playing nice. Just speculation. I have no idea. Maybe he just didn't want to do it. 7 o'clock, Tom Papa. 7 o'clock, the Jack Whitehall Gala. 7 o'clock, Brit-ish. 7 o'clock, Please Don't Destroy Live. 7 o'clock, New Faces International. 7 o'clock, Darcy and Jer. Spoke to them yesterday. Great interview. Hope you heard it. 7 o'clock, Noel Miller. 7:30, Tom Ballard. 7:30, Martin Urbano. 7:30, New Faces Characters Encore. 7:30, New Faces of Comedy Encore Group 2. 7:30, Best of the Fest. 8:30, Low Key Comedy Show, Dave Merhedge. 9 o'clock, Kyle Kinane. 9 o'clock, Deborah DiGiovanni. 9:15, Freestyle Love Supreme. 9:30, Rami Youssef. 9:30, Hannah Berner. 9:30, Neil Brennan. Wow. 9:30, Joanne McNally. 9:30, New Faces Canada. 9:45, Best of the Fest. 9:45, New Faces Encore Group 1. 9:45, New Faces on Rept Encore. The Eddie Izzard Gala, 10 o'clock, Ruben K. 10:30, Gianmarco Cerezi. 10:30, Donnell Rawlings. Midnight, Zach Zucker presents Stamptown Midnight Surprise and Mae Martin and Friends. Okay, let's do the What Should We See game. Let's see. Well, I guess we should see Rainn Wilson at 11:30. Then we'll have a little bit of break, grab some lunch. 3 o'clock, we should do the Just for Laughs award show. If that wraps up in time, let's go see Jessica Curson's State of the Industry address. I bet they have that timed out so you can do both. Then we can grab some drinks and dinner. All right, 7 o'clock. Let's see. I've already said, let's see, Please Don't Destroy. Let's do the Jack Whitehall Gala if we can get in. There's a low ticket warning on the website. Middle of the night. Let's do Kyle Kinane at 9. Have we done Kyle yet? I love Kyle. I can't remember. If we've done Kyle already, let's see Neil Brennan at 9:30. You can pick whichever one you want. I'm good for both. And that'll take us to the late shows. Midnight Surprise is going to crush tonight. So we'll do Midnight Surprise at midnight. And boy, if you didn't think today's episode was long enough, why don't I tack on a 20-minute interview? Nath Valvo is the host of New Faces of Comedy International. That show is at 7 o'clock. Nath has his own solo show tomorrow at the Cafe Cleopatra in Montreal at 9 o'clock. If you're up early and you're on the East Coast, jump in the car and go see him. I didn't know too much about him until I started doing prep for the interview, and he's awesome. I really, really enjoyed this conversation and thought about it for a few days. When we jumped on the Zoom, he had a backdrop of the Golden Gate Bridge behind him. So that's what we're talking about at the beginning and having a couple laughs over that. Where are you right now?
San Francisco, can't you tell? Well,
are you actually, or are you in Melbourne?
No, I'm in Melbourne. Just in my rental property in Melbourne.
Well, that's good because I had Melbourne topics prepared. I would have had to wing the San Francisco stuff.
I think I changed it as a joke, and I don't know how to change it back.
I was down in Melbourne in 2015, as you know. Cool. What a fantastic city. Just amazing. Like, there's reasons it wins best city.
Do you know who really loves Melbourne? People that live here.
So we have to keep it a secret?
Oh, no, absolutely not. We're well aware. I think the classic thing is people from Sydney or other parts of Australia hate how we talk about how good it is to live here.
I landed and we went over to the Botanic Gardens and just, oh my God, this is beautiful. The restaurant scene with the little streets in between. That's really cool. What a great scene.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I love it. I have no huge desire to go anywhere else yet.
We went over to the Docklands. I guess they were just starting to build that up, and there was a sports apparel store, and I love having random sports apparel stuff. So I bought a St. Kilda Saints hoodie, and I was going to wear it for the interview, and I'm like, no, that's too try hard. Don't do that. But I'll wear it around, and anybody who knows what it is walks up to me and like can't believe that I have this thing in New Jersey.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's also probably a good idea to not put a footy jersey on to talk to the gay comedian, but you know, we can pretend we can have a footy chat if you want. I can pretend I'm talking to an uncle at Christmas and give this a crack. Melbourne is absolutely completely football obsessed, so even the gays here know a thing or two because it's too hard not to. We can't escape it.
And that the Melbourne Star Ferris wheel, the big gigantic Ferris wheel, I'm talking to you like you don't know what it is. I'm telling the audience what it is. It's a big giant Ferris wheel. It's closed, right? Are they taking it down?
RIP, it's done. It's finished. They built this wheel and then for some odd reason it couldn't handle the heat. So in a couple of days when it hit like 40 degrees, it melted and stopped working. So they've shut it down. They've shut it down.
Take it down, or you're just going to have this like weird
It's just
Planet of the
finished.
Apes relic?
It's just there. They light it up sometimes when there's a big event on or a big game. They light it up. That looks nice. But that has been the go-to joke for many a comedian for about 10 years. Whenever we had nothing else to say to a crew, if we were losing a crowd or we were doing some boring gig like a corporate or something, just talk about the Docklands wheel and you get the crowd back. It's a go-to.
So you've probably picked up, I'm not a comic. I'm a radio guy by trade. Doing my research, I see you did a little radio yourself, weekend mornings in Melbourne.
Yeah, I did a lot of radio. I used to, I still do, but I used to love radio a lot. I think I wanted to be on radio more than I wanted to be a comic for a little bit when I was young. I loved radio. I did to prove that I could do it, they put me on the 1 a.m. till 5 a.m. shift for 3 months.
Oh, wow.
3 nights a week. That was weird. Talking about pop music at 2:30 in the morning to the truckers of Australia. I earned my stripes.
And you were live, not voice tracked?
I was live. Yeah, they let me pre-record some stuff, but it was so I could learn how to be live. And look, I'm better at talking than I am at pressing buttons, and there may have been issues. My favorite, this is very nerdy radio talk, but I had to, on the Friday night shift, I had to then, when I left in the morning, I had to take it to national. So I had to connect it so it would go to the national broadcast coming out of another city, whatever that meant, and had to do the countdown. You had to time out perfectly and finish your break exactly on the right second. Anyway, look, I finished. I thought I did a good job. I left the studio. I went down into the car park, got in my car, and there was nothing playing. There was dead air. And I was like, oh, I think that's my fault. And then I'll never forget it, Britney Spears' Toxic started playing. And I was like, that's weird. And then I had to run back up, and some engineer was calling the emergency phone that was in the studio. Look, I took the radio station off air for so long that there's an emergency song that kicks in after there's like 3 minutes of dead air, and it was Britney Spears' Toxic. There you go.
My listeners know that I like to talk about the international comedy scene to the extent that I can follow it from here. Walk me through, my sense of it from afar is that the Aussie scene it's got American style stand up, but it also has that British style of the whatever you call the 30-minute show that you take to Edinburgh, whatever that's called. It
the
seems
hour
like it's
show.
both.
Did you see my face drop when I said an hour? Actually, it's an hour show we have to do. Yep. Mix of both. Yes. Good question. Yeah, it is. We have a huge festival culture here. So we've got the Adelaide Fringe Festival, the Melbourne International. The Melbourne's the big one. That's like third biggest in the world. So Australian comics kind of learn from a young age to build to your hour every year. So we're churning out an hour every year. No one needs that. A lot of us don't need the hour. But our country's not big enough to tour for much longer than a few months a year. So we churn out a lot of stuff because we kind of have to.
Now, how do you mix building a fresh hour every year with feeding the TikTok beast?
Yeah, you sound like my manager, but thank you for that. Get on the TikTok, Nate. More clips. Come on. Post more. Go viral. It's that's new. That's a big chat that's happening now. That's only about a year old, that chat, I think, about comics really starting to notice the TikTok stuff. A lot of cameras being set up now at rooms that never used to be there. So you go down to the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night rooms to test your new material, and there's all these cameras set at the back now because all the comics are filming all their little club sets in case there's some crowd work that goes off for TikTok. It's like, oh, God, I'm supposed to come here to test my jokes to see if they're good or not. I can't be bothered also worrying about having some red hot back and forth with an audience member so I can go off on TikTok. So, yeah, that's definitely changed the club scene. But, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's like, what do you burn on TikTok? What do you wait for your shows? What do you hold on to in case you get something like JFL Montreal where you've got to, do stuff that hasn't been filmed before? Like it's actually it's getting hard to decide what you should keep, what you should put online. It's becoming pretty overwhelming, to be honest.
If I climb up on Old Man Mountain for a second,
Here we go.
Is it maddening if you're working in the traditional sense and churning out an hour, and maybe somebody who looks a little more handsome with their shirt off than I do has a really good 40 seconds and gets 10 trillion views?
Are you saying that? How do I feel about hot comedians? Is this what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah.
Go away, hot people. Comedy is for the underdog. Comedy is for the rest of us that got bullied in high school and had to be funny to survive. Get off the stage, hot comics. No, I'm only kidding. Look, I am one of those people, unfortunately, that I'm all for it. I think everyone wins. If more people are getting into comedy that don't normally get into comedy, I like that. I like seeing people blow up online. That gets people to go see them live, because that means that person then might see a poster for someone else, or they might go, hey, that hot guy from TikTok's funny. Maybe there's other funny comedians out there. I feel that I think it's a good thing, and I think you can't be too. I also do say to some of my comics when we start bitching about and gossiping about the comics that are blowing up online, I actually think it's a good thing to remind yourself that most of the time, those people that are going to those shows probably were never coming to yours. So just chill out. You know what I mean? I just feel there's a lot of people in the world, and I don't think you can stress too much about people going to other people's shows, because, there's enough for everyone, I think.
Sure. So the scene.
Yes.
Do you mostly play Melbourne rooms? I'm just trying to translate it into American. So is it like bouncing up and down in Manhattan, and then Sydney would be Los Angeles or whatever I want to compare it to? Yeah,
there's a really healthy room culture here in Australia, especially Melbourne. Melbourne's got 4 or 5 pretty fun, great rooms that most of us do. I don't do rooms all the time. I write a lot. I'm a real heavy writer. I don't really get on stage and say something until I'm pretty certain I've got the out. I like crowd work in my solo shows. I think that can be a bit fun, but I don't tend to do that. I'm a pretty lazy person. I like staying inside. So if I'm leaving my lounge room on a Wednesday night at 10 o'clock to go to a room, I'm going to get the most out of it and really try a bit and really write it and really see if the punchline works. I'm not really a comic that works it out on stage.
Interesting.
I'm not really a comic that, and they're great, and I'm jealous of those comics. I think it's a real skill to be able to, chill and chat to the front row and see where this bit goes, and let's all have a nice time. I don't really do that. I kind of make sure I know beginning, middle, end before I jump up. So, I write more. Yeah.
You're hosting New Faces International. I usually make it up to Montreal and catch 1 or 2 of the New Faces shows, usually the Wednesday night shows. I've never done the international one.
Mm-hmm.
A new face can be a loose term. There are comedians who have been doing it 8-10 years, and hey, it's a new face.
Yeah.
So for you, how new are these new faces? I'm sure if I go, 9 out of the 10 will be new to me, but for you, especially you host,
well, you're going to love this
down there.
You're going to love this. They haven't told me who's on yet.
That's amazing.
It's not only a new faces show, it's a new for the host. I don't know if it's going to be like a reality show where they hand me the name before I have to introduce them. They have not sent me the lineup yet, which is very funny. So I don't even know who's on it. The new faces thing is funny because you've nailed that thing about comedy. People seem to think you get discovered very quickly, and it's so rare. I know almost no comedians that got a big break or really cut through quickly. I think comedy most of the time, not all the time, but I would think majority of the time it's a slow burn, and then something could click on TikTok or something might happen at something. But most comics I know that have blown up at some point had already been doing it for many years. So like this New Faces show I'm hosting, which is very exciting. I have actually been doing stand-up for 15 years. So I've done 13 solo shows. I've done 13 hours. So I know it's a lot, right? Thank you. I don't look it. Thank you to my lady that gives me Botox. But so it's that the word new is give or take, I feel, when it comes to something like Montreal. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to your point, and kind of back to the TikTok thing, somebody might have a great 40 seconds, 4 minutes, but you don't have 45 at some point, and it takes a while to find your voice and your rhythm. And
absolutely, yeah, I agree, and I think it's I think it's a good thing. I think it's a big ask to ask for an audience to pay attention to you for a chunk of time. It's a big ask, and you can't edit in a room, and so full respect to people that are finding their audience on TikTok. I just hope they're also getting on stage as much as they can as well, so it can match. So the quality of the online can match on stage.
I find the comedians that have lasted up here are the traditional brick wall comedians. There have been shooting stars, and I'm not here to slag on anybody, but there have been people that come along and they're stylized comics, whatever your thing is. Like, I'm the guy that holds a vitamin water all the time, and vitamin water guy, oh my God, vitamin water guy, has like a great 3 years, and then everybody gets bored and goes back to Louis or Bill Burr or Seinfeld.
I get what you say. I feel it's it's hard. It's actually really hard to do stand-up year after year and to constantly find stuff to talk about. I know comics, we shouldn't complain. There's people that work in hospitals and they're frontline, and my husband's a scientist. So look, there's people that have actual jobs, fully aware. But it is, I will give a big shout out to us comics, because it actually is really hard every year to churn it out, find material, work on it, give it punchlines, make it funny. It's not the easiest thing. That's why all of us want to do something else so bad sometimes. It's like, God, why can't I just be a really good actor? Give me a year off.
You mentioned your husband. Your triathlon bit is fantastic. I'll recommend it to my audience that they go find it.
Thank you.
Did he do the one, or does he do them regularly?
He's done a bunch. And, speaking of like the TikTok stuff, the reason I'm not anti it is because that triathlon clip, that changed my career. And that was from online. That was back in the day when people watched Facebook videos. And so that triathlon bit years ago, what 5-6 years ago now, just did that blow up viral thing when it just got millions of views. And honestly, it just changed everything in about a week. I just got more bookings and more people started to like look at me for other stuff. So that's why I don't want to, neg too much on the TikTok stuff, because my career was really affected by online stuff. So the triathlon bit is my bit. That's why, if I was going to be, I've got a fear that when I'm going to be like 70 doing some weird tour, someone in a wheelchair who's 70 with me will be yelling out, do the triathlon bit.
Do you have to do it, or a variant of it? Is it like you might be a redneck if? Teasing fit people is such a universal language, and no matter where I go in the world, I do know that if I rip into people that run, I think it unites most audiences. So it is a nice go-to. It's definitely my comfort net. If I ever feel a bit nervous about a gig, I'll be like, all right, let's get into the track. So, So you're also performing at the May Martin Gala or Gala? Let me ask you that question. My New York accent wants to say Gala, and then I go up to Montreal and everybody says Gala, and I don't know what's right.
It's Gala. Well, it's Gala in Australia, but All
right, so let's team up. It's Gala.
Yeah.
So for that show, do you care what order you're slotted? Or are you going to just do what you were going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I've already told they ask for scripts and they ask for what you're doing, and I'm assuming they might look at that and pick the order from that. I'm sure it'll be great. I'm sure the people that decided who do stuff, they kind of try and pick someone from each different kind of flavor. I'm assuming. I mean, not to tell Montreal how to do their job, but no, I'm excited about that. Met May many years ago. May did Melbourne a couple of times, and so we've gigged together, and big fan. Loved Feel Good, that show. So yeah, I'm excited.
That's great. The other thing on the international scene, I see a lot of, and I'm looking at your awards here. Winner, Best Comedy, Adelaide Fringe. Winner, Best Newcomer, Best Comedy Show. In the States, we don't really do that. And I don't know why not.
You shouldn't. I don't think you should. I mean, of course, we'll plug it that I've done that. So I don't like it. I just think it just should be just get laughs, make your show funny, make sure everyone in your audience has a good time. Who's to say who's funnier than someone else? The UK, Edinburgh, Australia thing so heavily revolved around fringe festivals and hour shows. Everyone can get a bit in their head about awards and nominations, and I don't think anyone wins from that. Just be funny, please.
I'll talk to both sides of your brain. In satellite radio up here at Sirius, I run the comedy channels, and we used to do comedy contests, and the comedians would lose their minds. But the reason I was doing it as a radio programmer was to engage the audience. So we'd start out week one and go, all right, who's the greatest comedian of all time? George Carlin or Richard Pryor? You vote, whatever. I don't care who wins. And then like 3 weeks into it, it's like, all right, this week it's Richard Pryor versus Carrot Top. And the audience would leave us, this is back, you'd leave voicemails. This guy, Johnny Mac, running the radio station, he's such an idiot. How could it possibly be Carrot Top? And I'm sitting up in my office thinking, like, you guys are losing your mind. But comedians would hate when we would do X versus Y.
I mean, what, because they'd scared they'd lose? I mean, I'm all for it if I'm winning. No, I mean, I understand why, as a comedy lover, you wouldn't even think twice about that. And you'd be excited to vote and have a chat. But then I get the other side as the comic, you'd be like, why compare? Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I mean, I get it. But
yeah, it was a radio bit. I didn't care who won as long as you called in.
I mean, there's bigger issues in the world. I think that's fine. As long as I win, I'm fine.
Final question for me, and who's on your radar that's probably, I'm sitting here in a basement in New Jersey, that's probably off my radar? Who are you into? Who should we look out for?
Oh, God, this is going to be very Australian-based, isn't it?
No, that's what I want.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm trying. Okay. So Bronwyn Cuss, Blake Freeman, and they're two upcomers that I think have got the goods that I think will be potential Aussie comic superstars. So check them out.
Great. I'll run the transcript and I'll look them up.
Yeah. Have a look at that. I'm fans. And oh God, now I'm freaking out that the other Aussie comics are going to hear this and then have a go at me for not mentioning. Shit. I should just like be a politician now and list like 35 Australian comedians for you to go and see. But
I'll have them on and we'll bash you and I'll run my old radio trip.
Have a competition and get people to vote who they want more, me or them.
Thank you for your time.
I appreciate the chat. So if you're coming over to Montreal, say good day.
This is the awkward part where I don't know how to end this. And we stare at each other. So I'm just going to hit end and I'll see you somewhere sometime. Enjoy San Francisco.
Thanks, mate.
Bye. He's Nath Valvo. You heard me mention the triathlon bit. And just from talking to him for 15 minutes, I don't think he'll mind too much if I play a small clip here. So listen.
Get this, guys. Not long ago, my boyfriend Cody, awful name, great guy, said to me, I'm going to do a triathlon and you have to come and watch and don't be a bitch. That's what he said to me, right? So I was like, I can do that because I'm like really nice. So the first thing he did was find a triathlon group on the internet called the Mountain Goats. And they have that written on the back of their T-shirts, like they're okay with people knowing that. Anyway, they're all counting their steps. You know, people that count steps, we're all dealing with those people, just counting the steps and just counting the steps. I'm in the step club at work, got to hit 10,000, got to hit 10,000. No lift for me today, I'm counting the steps. If you're over 2 years old, no one gives a shit how many steps you took today. You stop counting at 2, you know? And they've all got these watches that they plug into laptops and all these graphs to come up. Here's a little rule. The more things your watch can do, the less time people want to spend with you.
Nath Valvo, New Faces International, Just for Laughs, Montreal. What a great festival. If you didn't make it this year, you still got a couple days, and you should definitely go next year. Also, check out JFL Toronto, a differently, awesomely cool festival. And that is your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. Smash the like button, follow the show and all that. See you tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Mark Francis and host of a new podcast, The Messi Effect. Join us as we take you into the exciting new world of Argentine soccer phenomenon, Lionel Messi. And his new life at Inter Miami will bring you into the glitz, the glamour, the star-studded events, along with the exciting journey to a new world of U.S. soccer and international football with news and stories 3 times a week. Come along for the ride as Messi, Miami, and Major League Soccer experience the journey of a lifetime. Get the Messi Effect wherever you get your podcasts.